Hello everyone, my name is Loco and welcome to a best of 3 series of top level StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is a Protoss versus Zerg. We're in the top right hand corner. We're looking inside of the main base of Zaun and his opponent playing with the red Zerg pieces. He goes by the name of Solar. These are two absolute top tier competitors, yet I don't really see them play nearly as often as I would like to. Maybe it's just because, I don't know, whenever there's replays of weekly tournaments available, their names just don't really jump out at me. I'm not exactly sure. They do play in quite a few events. I do obviously, well, cover them, but probably not as frequently as I should. Zaun in particular has been very impressive. He completed his military service some time ago, decided to come back to StarCraft 2, and he's been looking very solid ever since. So I figured this is a best of 3 series. I didn't update the scoreboard yet, but we should go ahead and have a look and see exactly where they are currently at. I have recently covered Solar a little bit more than before, but I still think we can have a look at them. The thing about both Zaun and Solar though, and this is going to sound a little bit disrespectful, but I don't really mean it that way. Both of them play pretty boring StarCraft. And when we want to watch boring StarCraft, aka macro-focused strategies, usually we can look at players like, for example, MaxPax, maybe players like, for example, Serral, right? Like, those are the players that jump out because they essentially play the exact same playstyles, except slightly better. Maybe a better word for boring would be conventional, or macro-oriented, or standard. A lot of people obviously love watching the absolute chaos that is a game of, for example, Hero or, for example, Dark. But you know what? This is what the majority of games of StarCraft 2 at a high level look like. Oh, setting issue. I like how they switched to English halfway through. That is very kind. All right. Apparently we needed to jump into the settings there for a second. Maybe a hotkey, that's an issue. A lot of pro gamers tend to play on a variety of accounts. Also, for some reason, a lot of the settings don't necessarily carry over from server to server. And obviously, this is going to be played on the Korean server. You would imagine that their settings are correct over there, or maybe they've just switched out hardware. That's another thing, actually, that pro gamers do all the time. You know how, like, you may believe that if you get a new gamer chair, you will be literally as good at StarCraft as Clem? Well, pro gamers also believe that. So, it is much better to blame your hardware than to blame your personal skill. So a lot of pro gamers will constantly be switching out hardware. Some of them actually just stick with what they're very used to. Interestingly enough, actually, I know that, for example, Clem likes to switch out his hardware every once in a while. One of the things you'll see at StarCraft tournaments is pro gamers checking out each other's mice and keyboard and giving them a try and all that. It is 100% the gold standard in 2025 for players to use a wireless mouse. However, after I've seen Clem play with a bunch of different hardware, when he won the World Championships last year, back in August, he actually switched back to like a wired mouse that he used to play on for years before he apparently became the guy that he is right now, which is pretty wild. So if you look at pictures of, well, Clem winning the World Championships, he was actually playing with a wired mouse. I'm not exactly sure which one it is anymore, and I don't think I can really recommend picking a wired mouse up as a gaming mouse in 2025. I don't even think he would recommend it, but sometimes the good old faithful will do just fine. And ultimately, obviously, a lot of it mostly irrelevant. I mean, there are minor improvements, especially with keyboards and I guess some of the polling rates with mice. And a lot of people are obsessed with the weight of their mouse as well. But ultimately, in my mind, I think it's a bit of copium. Yeah, you want to try and get the best setup you can get, but ultimately, I don't think it really matters that much. Anyways, your results may vary. We've got ourselves a Void Ray into Oracle opener here for Zaun. In the meantime, Solar opening up with a very standard triple hedge. He does, of course, lose that very first Overlord on the other side of the map, but all of this is very acceptable. In the meantime, he's pulled the other Overlords all the way back home. No longer scouting ahead of the creep, making sure that the Void Ray is only going to be able to secure a single kill. I always like it better when you see the Protoss player open up with a Void Ray first, and then go across the map with it before revealing it to the other Overlord at home. Because now you're very likely to only get a single Overlord kill with this Void Ray. I guess you can really guarantee that there is absolutely no scouting from the opponent this way, but I find it quite expensive to build a Stargate into a Void Ray just to get a single Overlord and then a single Zergling. It seems a bit much. Anyways, a lot of Protoss players are enjoying, though, the current state of the meta, where ultimately it is very much so up to the Zerg to try and stop them from going up to tier 3. If they can go up to motherships and skytools and all the rest of it, tends to be quite difficult for Zerg, so the ball is very much so in Solar's court to decide as to what he wants to do about it. Zaun apparently does not care about dealing damage so much on the other side of the map. He is just trying to play survival. Oracle swoops in, Queen's though in position. Perfect defense so far by Solar. He did lose a couple of Zerglings, but obviously those were mostly the scouting, and he hasn't really made that many. In total, 18 only. Very acceptable. Now, in the meantime, so this is kind of cheeky by Zaun, and maybe this is the reason why he opened up Void Ray first. He's gone into the charge research, and then a stupid amount of gateways. This is the I'm not gonna micro build order, the one where you're just going to warp in 1,000,000 zealots, not really the most microable unit in the game, and you just warp in as many as you can on the other side of the map. Solar, though, is already making roaches for base defense. He doesn't really know exactly what he's playing against. Again, courtesy of that Void Ray, right? So obviously, at the very least, is getting a lot of value in that regard. But this is going to hit pretty... Oof. Okay, he's trying to hide the prism. Lucky here for Solar, he sees it, but did he actually pay attention to the minimap? Well, he's making more roaches. No, he did not pay attention to the minimap. He sent these Zerglings towards the bottom right. I was gonna say, normally you just sort of assume that that extra dot on the minimap there is just an extra zealot. Turns out it's a prism trying to take the long way around, and suddenly we have a 10-gate all-in. A 3-base 10-gate all-in. There is a choke point, and this choke point is extremely good. Queen's transfusing the weakened units in the front. Roach is obviously also very tanky. Well, you know what? I think if you don't know that this attack is coming, this may just be the perfect defense. And that Stasis Ward is actually helping out the Zerg more than it is helping out the Protoss. Might be time to actually just salvage this and target fire down as many of those drones as possible. But Zaun is just all-inning with this now. I mean, obviously, he was already very committed, but excellent defense here by Solar. He was scouting, didn't quite figure out exactly what he was playing against, but he was already blindly preparing for some shenanigans. Now drones are starting to fall, but it's only 7. Void Ray, in the meantime, tried to join in, but the strength of that Spore Crawler is not to be underestimated. Couple more Zealots moving on over towards the 3rd. There is an Observer in the natural too, so honestly, well managed by Solar. A little sloppy there by Zaun in the end, right? You should probably not have engaged there in that choke point. We see this all the time. It's funny, the building positioning for Zerg, mostly irrelevant in a lot of the games. But, well, you can tell here that there is a very good reason to be tightening that choke point just a little bit. We're going Swarm Hosts? Okay. Swarm Hosts to drive the nail in the coffin. I find it a very ambitious play by Solar and pretty unnecessary. But apparently he's thinking, yo, you want to be a memer? I will show you to, well, be better at it. Look at me, I'm the memer now. Swarmos are going to try and put the nail in the coffin. Now, this will get scouted immediately. What's the counter to Swarm Host? Generally, for Protoss, it is stuff. It doesn't really matter so much what the unit is. Obviously, preferably, you would go into something like Archons and maybe a bunch of Colossi, that sort of thing. But generally speaking, the more stuff you have, the bigger an army you have, the weaker that the Swarmos Locusts are going to be. At this point, Zaun is mostly just trying to buy time, being an absolute nuisance with these Zealot Warp-ins, but not really achieving that much. I mean, he's slowing all of this down a tad. Ultimately, Solar is going to try and see if he can force the issue. He's also brought the Queens across, mostly just to try and get revenge on that very first Overlord that got sniped on the other side of the map. Okay, these Zealots intercepting and forcing a bunch of the Locusts to, okay, launch off. And now with the Queens going down, the Void Ray is putting in an awful lot of work. Even though there is technically no anti-air in this army here for the Zerg player, does he have enough to just drive his way through the center of the map? I mean, the problem is he doesn't have that much army. Even though he's maxed out, Road Driver to Swarmos is very supply heavy. Bunch of Zealots. These are the ones I believe that were working on the Swarmos in the middle of the map, being a nuisance. Immortals and Sentries working away. Good force field. More zealots going around the site. Dude, Solar, you should not be losing from like an 80 supply advantage. I still believe you've got this. But you're making it very difficult on yourself. Once more, very good movement here by Zaun. Just forcing those locusts to be activated means that another wave of locust is not going to be available here, right? Like, I mean, we're basically delaying this attack by like another 30, 45 seconds. Okay, at least there's a little bit of something over here. I like how Zaun decided to go for the least micro-heavy army you could ever build as Protoss, and then decided to go for the most micro-heavy follow-up you could ever go for, and showed us that, no, actually, he's perfect at controlling this type of army. He just made it a little bit confusing for himself. Well, here we go. That is a lot of Immortals. 5 Immortals versus 36 Roaches is not ideal, but I mean, it's gonna hit really hard. A lot of the Roaches have already been killed. What about the Locust Wave, though? Stasis Ward in the perfect spot! No way! No way! Zaun holds! I mean, it's not over yet. There's no way that Solar is gonna get his foot off the gas. But that's an insanely good stasis. More queens fall. Okay. I mean, if Zaun wins this, I am gonna lose my mind. There's no way. Zaun, you gotta go home, dude. Hydras are coming. He doesn't know. Hive is also coming here from Solar. It's already done. I think he probably should have gone into that direction right from the start and skipped the Swarm Host altogether. This is now a bit of an overextension though by Zaun. Walking deep onto creep. Okay, still microing his butt off. That Prism is no longer available. So he sacrificed a bunch of units. I mean, look at the amount of Zerg now. This is not really holdable. Interestingly enough, Zaun does currently have an economical advantage. As long as he defends, he's gonna be fine. But there's no way, right? We're gonna need about 3 additional perfect stasis wards for this to be playable. No, no. I became a believer there for just a second, but now suddenly the entirety of the swarm has arrived. GG. Next up, we find ourselves on El Dorado. A large map. Already. Solar, though, wants to make it feel a little bit smaller, right? He's gonna try and mine out these golden mineral fields behind the natural expansion and, well, head on over in the direction of the Protoss. A lot of players have become fans of this, although it's always a bit risky. Actually, my scoreboard is flipped upside down. There we go. It's 1-0 right now for Solar. Either way, we'll have to see if Zaun wants to face him head on, right? Because generally speaking, in my experience, I find that Zerg usually benefits from expanding away from the opponent. Just because you obviously have more movement speed. The advantage of creep is also incredible in StarCraft. So if you, can put more distance between you and your opponent, up to a certain amount, there's certainly a limit to it. But usually Zergs do benefit from it quite a bit. And if Protoss now also expands towards the bottom, right? If they also expand in the direction of the Zerg, then suddenly they're effectively next door neighbors. Well, you can still do some crazy roach attacks though. Couple of spore crawlers being morphed in. They are now cancelled. 2 drones go down for a single adept. Oracle number 1 is available. Oracle number 2 on the production tab. Let's see. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na. This is like the shark moving across the map. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na. It even has like the little fins all over it, dude. When you think about it, oracles are sharks with many fins and able to fly. Dang. Roasted. Oh, does not quite. Oh, yeah, no, he does get it, but that was expensive. So we get a single larva and then a single creep tumor. Whoop-de-doo. Right? How? Because of the energy recharge on the Nexus, it's really not that bad. And this is, by the way, our answer. Zaun is expanding away from the opponent, so willing to play a bit more of a macro-focused match here. Because of the energy recharge, you can get energy on the oracles a little bit quicker too, so maybe going for attacks like that is not the end of the world, but yeah, I always find sniping a single larva to be the absolute bottom of the barrel. I guess it's better than nothing. Well, I guess the absolute bottom of the barrel would be losing the oracle and dealing no damage. Right above that, though, is killing a larva. Anyway. Yeah, there is an argument to be made that since Protoss players do generally like playing longer games right now, maybe you should expand away from the opponent as Protoss, and you should expand in the direction of the opponent as Zerg. Usually it creates more aggressive games, but Zaun happy to play macro here. Okay. Damn. Spore crawlers are insane these days. By far the biggest buff, by the way, for Zerg in the previous patch, it feels like. The Spore Crawler damage is really, really strong. We see a lot of Zerg players at the pro level still try to skip the Queen production. Or skip the Spore Crawler production, rather, in favor of Queen production. Honestly, I think you should make a Spore Crawler in every mineral line, always. Hatchery is going to be building over next to the golden minerals, and obviously this is the reason why we see Zerg players taking the risk, expanding towards the bottom of the map here. Those golden minerals are looking mighty juicy. Okay, Templar Archives coming up, together with Charge. All of this is looking a lot like a good old Zealot Archon follow-up. Oh, he could have had it, easy. Misplay right there from Solar. This is going to be another aggressive attack, though, from Solar. So it's Oracles together with Zealots, and then Archons. All of it with +1. +1 in the Forge makes it so that Zealots two-shot Zerglings rather than 3. So it's a significant damage boost against the Zergling heavy army, and this is, yeah, going to be Hydras on Lynx. Infestation Pit coming up right now for Solar, so he is basically skipping Roach Tech. He hasn't gone for a Baneling Nest. He's going pure Hydra Ling and then straight into what is likely going to be Lurkers and a Hive. So this should be an attack that has real potential here for Zaun. Zaun is going for Storm too, by the way, which is it's going to slow everything down a bunch. There's the Hive indeed coming up. Lurker down on the back of this too. Hydra range, +1 missile. The Zerglings don't benefit from that, but Hydras and Queens certainly do. Okay, I actually thought Zaun wanted to go for a more aggressive push. Maybe that was the original plan, but something threw him off. Yeah, he's actually expecting that the Zork is going to be the aggressor here. Well, if Zerg would be the aggressor right now, I think Zaun would destroy it. So I understand that he would love to see that, but not going to be the case. That's a lot of Oracles, by the way. This is 4 Oracles. Do you think he's going to make even more Oracles? No, okay, sorry. They do look kind of adorable, though, if I'm not, you know. Anyways, Fleet Beacon. Straight Fleet Beacon from Zaun. I'm a little confused here by all of the tech choices by Zaun. So he's making it look like he's going to go for an aggressive push, but then he's like, actually, no. This is Storm. Actually, no. He's just sitting back at macroing. That's all he's doing. Now, I want to believe, right? It's just that I've seen a lot of matches lately that open up like this, and when both players are extremely passive, like this particular match here so far, it rarely works out well for Zerg. So, if that's the case, is Solar going to be able to, well, pretty much break that curse? Because Solar has gotten away with a lot of greed. Like, we're 8.5 minutes into the game, and range for the Lurkers is already, well, within a half minute or so, it will be done. In the meantime, though, we already have the counter to those Lurkers coming up in the form of Tempests. Second Stargate here. Would not be surprised to see a third, maybe a Mothership in just a moment. And this is a moment here for Solar, I think, where, yeah, he's going to be able to contaminate and delay production on the first Tempest, but the production is already going on, and... Ooh. A quadruple? No, a quintuple Overlord drop will be the answer for Solar. We don't have a Nidus Worm or anything along those lines, but Solar wants to try and see if he can get a quick 2-0 here. Basically just go for a single attack into the main base, deny that production in the main, and call it a day. If Zaun can max out, though, with this type of army, I think he's going to be in a really good spot. 5th Nexus will likely be the one right over here at the bottom. Yep. Thank you for making me look good, Zaun. I appreciate that. Here go the Ovies, though. Much like the Oracles from the early game. First attack here through the choke point. There's only one mineral field mined out. Interestingly enough, right there, Storm kills one of the oracles. Ovis, though, have made their way, for the most part, to the main base of the Protoss player. Another storm over here, another stasis ward. Go, 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 go. We gotta go. Send in the balloons. Happy birthday, Zaun. Here's your gift. Zerglings and Lurkers. Bunch of Hydras in the mix. It does look like a one-way trip, though. Zealots are not going to be ideal for cleaning all of this up, so the rest of the Protoss army is heading on over in this direction, too. Maybe that opens up the front door, though, for this army to go into the 5th base. At the same time, Zaun has gone for a Zealot run-by, which is very intelligent, because if he doesn't go for that, I think his 5th Nexus would be toast. Now the entirety of the Zerg army has been used to retreat. Honestly, a misplay here from Solar. He should not be defending this with his entire army. But already there were multiple engagements going on at the same time. And that now means that Zaun actually defends this with ease. Like, that looked a little bit chaotic, but now he knows that that is one of the lines of thought here for Solar. Obviously, Solar still has those drop alerts too. So, good chance they're going to be coming in for another wave in just a moment. And next time around, he's going to be a bit more prepared. Mothership is on the production tab. Very ambitious drone in the middle of the map too. And this is looking like a banger army right now for Protoss. Zerg is already, though, going into Corruptors. Corruptors are an absolute necessity. Hydras are technically an anti-air unit, but realistically, you don't really want to think of them as that. Maybe with Microbial Shroud or something, but that's all very ambitious. Bunch of Lurkers here, morphed in very odd locations. I mean, there's action all over the map. Zealots are certainly going to be having a good trade there up north. One of the, well, Corruptors is going to go down. Zealots just chasing this down and charging at those Hydras whenever the cooldown is available. Bunch of Zealots here at the bottom of the map too. Solar has just turned into a complete punching bag. Like, he is just hanging out. Second Forge coming up. Extra gateways are getting queued up. We're even making a wall off over here. Mothership is just about to spawn. Zaun is cruising. This is the Protoss happy place right here. It's still very losable, don't get me wrong. You're one mistake away from this being an absolute disaster. But I do certainly favor Protoss at this stage in the match. When everything has been back and forth like this, Protoss has lost quite a bit less than the Zerg. I mean, it's not been perfect either in that regard, but yeah, this has been a good set of trades so far for Zaun. Zaun has got all the economy, all of the gas he could need. He should maybe get a second Cyber Core just to go for the double air upgrades. But ultimately, that is a luxury. Doesn't even really have that many Tempest. His main problem right now is those Lurkers. So the ground army can't really advance. Zealots in the meantime, though, causing a distraction up north, going after the drones once more. I mean, there is a Lurker set up for base defense, but even though it will maybe achieve that job eventually, we should probably see some Vipers here. Instead, Solar is trying to see if he can jump this. Corruptors, though, of course, have a tendency to clump up. And when the Corruptors clump up, that's when the Archons can deal a stupid amount of splash damage. 17 drones, by the way. 17 drones. The Lurkers and the Spines got it done eventually, but that was expensive. Double upgrades now going up here for our Protoss. For the ground units. 3 additional Stargates coming up too. Yeah, Zaun's having a good time. Here we go again, though. Another wave similar to the last one. The Corruptors are clumping up together. Archons underneath are having a grand old time. Still, though, the Corruptors are completing their job of killing most of the Sky Toss. Mothership at this point is gone. A bunch of the Tempests also fell. Hydra's chasing this down to the best of their abilities. Now suddenly, though, Zaun is thinking, yo, 5 carriers, baby. That's the dream. Most of the Corruptors actually did survive. I was a little bit concerned for them. Yeah, only 8 of them died. Could have been a lot worse with like 1 or 2 additional Archon hits. Storms? Okay, good storms. Keep in mind that the Corruptors are mostly wasted supply for now. Until those carriers are available. They're not going to be able to do too much. Okay. Nice attempt here by Solar, but I think he needs to go back home. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think Zaun shouldn't be making Skytools units right now. He believes that he can still get away with it. But I feel like having your opponent sit on like 50 supply that's doing nothing is preferable. I mean, it's gonna try and throw some puke on your structures every once in a while, but yeah, they're low HP, so Kind of feels like a donation though, right? Am I crazy? Those carriers? He's like, yo, here, have a carrier. I saw you had corruptors already. Maybe you'll like part 2 of the corruptors. It's called Carrier. Go check it out, dude. Seems like a strategic misstep, but Zaun is just cruising along. Double upgrades finishing up in Solar. Oh, God. That was a very sad GG. Solar decides to tap out. Even though he still has a lot of bases, he still has good economy, he just knows he's not going to be able to fight that army. GG. Alrighty. Next up, we find ourselves on ley lines. I'm not exactly sure if Zerg should be playing the way that Solar did in the previous match. So Solar has been playing that very passive approach for many, many years, and it's how he enjoys playing Zerg against Protoss. But I just don't think it is the best style to play in the current meta. Like, this is something that worked for many years, but these days it seems like a lot of the Zerg players are just far more aggressive. When you play the passive approach, you end up in the spot that he was just in. It's not even that Solar made any critical mistakes. In my mind, it's not that Zaun played that much better. It's just that Zaun benefits more from the passive game than Solar does. So, yeah, maybe, I don't know. So it's not really Solar's playstyle, though, to be an aggressor, but it seems very tricky right now for the current Zerg top-tier pro gamers for them to, yeah, win en masse just by having a lot of economy. Those Zealot run-bys, by the way, were killer. Like, that was by far, I think, the biggest mistake that Solar made. He had a lot of drones going down to Zealot run-bys. Zealot run-bys, though, in the late game are kind of like one of those things where, for Protoss, a lot of them don't really pay attention that much to the Zealot run-bys. So you kind of set them up with shift Q commands on the minimap and you don't really pay attention to them. It's always hard to say exactly how much Protoss notices as far as the damage goes that they deal. Oftentimes it's mostly just a distraction and very much so a mineral dump. Protoss is mostly bottlenecked by gas in the later stages of the game, so you have generally got some minerals left over. The main problem, of course, is that you need to sort of max out with like 170 supply and leave quite a bit of supply in the container, right? To just, well, do Zealot run-bys and send in the Warp Prism and be a nuisance across the board. Anyways, it is going to be a Stargate double Oracle here into Twilight Council. I don't think Zaun is going to be playing a very aggressive match here. I would be surprised. In game number 1, he played very aggressive. I think after these first 2 games, it's pretty clear that that is not what he should be doing. That does mean, though, that you're signing up for that late game again. So the main vulnerability, and Protoss players have gotten a lot better at this in the last, I want to say, 3 months or so. When the new patch first went live, Protoss was struggling a lot, making that transition from the mid game to the late game. So Protoss players would usually do fine in the mid game, they would do great in the late game, but the transitionary period where they're going into the fleet beacon, they're adding on the additional stargates, they're going maybe into a second forge, making some static defense, building up a 5th nexus, right? Like that period in time, that seems to be when Protoss is most vulnerable. But over the last few months, Protoss players have just smoothed that out a lot. They've taken some sandpaper, right, and they've really been scrubbing off all the rough edges, and they've been making really good progress in that department of the game. So Zaun there not rushing out the mothership, for example. He knows that the mothership is the ultimate goal. It's extremely powerful. But if you rush it out, you now find yourself making a fleet beacon, 300 minerals, 200 gas. You're making the mothership, 8 supply, 400 minerals, 400 gas. At the same time, you're usually building a new nexus with some pylons and then a bunch of shield batteries, maybe a photon cannon or 2, right? You're spending thousands of resources into a mothership, and it takes like 2 years to produce, right? So, okay, maybe a slight exaggeration, but there is this giant period in time where Protoss can get sniped pretty well if they're not careful. Anyways, little Zergling run by here at the bottom of the map. Stalker push, though, in the meantime up north. Blink is not yet done. Cool timing here by Zaun, showing up right before any of those upgrades kick in. Dangerous against mass Zergling, but he's got triple Oracle up in the air. And if you can actually force a council here on the 4th base, that would be massive. It's going to be difficult, though, because Roach production is already here. Couple Zerglings trying their best, but there's an Adept on hold position, and she's going to be able to keep that base safe. Zergling's just about to wake up, but a new Stasis Ward. Sadly here for Protoss, he pops too, but a new Stasis Ward was already planted down. The Roach Stalker dance will continue. Keep in mind that while Zerg is making roaches, they're not making drones. Protoss, though, increasing their economy still. Not by much, but sprinkling in a couple probes at a time. Sometimes, though, these Roach numbers do become overwhelming, and they do now have Roach speed. +1 missile is going to finish up as well in a moment. Overlord speed also available here for Solar. 4th Nexus in the meantime, all the way at the bottom of the map. Solar would love to send a group of Zerglings in that direction, but not quite able to achieve it. Zaun does need to be careful, though. He's got a lot of low HP Stalkers here. The micro has been good, but sometimes that almost like inflates your confidence a little bit, where you have so many units, but some of them are literally at 2 HP. He wants to get that base. That's why he's here. Sometimes Protoss get a little bit tunnel vision, though. He wants to kill that base so bad that sometimes you just sort of see blood in front of your eyes and you're hoping that you're gonna be able to get it. Alright, we're not quite committing too hard. +1, just finished. Charts on the back of this together with the Storm research. He's gonna get it. Oh, God, okay, he got it, he got it, he got it. So, as the dust settles, we have 3 base Zerg, a lot of supply, versus now 4 base Protoss. This is, though, when the pacing of the game turns, because Solar wants to be the aggressor now. He needs to be. He's got a massive supply lead. He cannot sit back. Storm is not yet done. Oracles, though, do get the energy recharge, so we should really be target firing down the Ravagers. Queens have been brought to the front as well. Love that here from Solar. Trying to see if he can potentially push for the victory here. How much? Okay, we have no energy. Okay, we have High Templar juice, but no High Templar. Dangerous. We should really have worked in like 2 High Templar here. Anyways, Zaun is hoping he's going to be able to defend this with just pure army. And you know what? He might just be able to get the numbers. The longer that this goes on, the more the economical advantage here from Zaun is going to kick in. Oracles now, though, without energy. This is an awkward choke point, though, for Solar to be engaging into. A lot of his units are clumped together, whereas Zaun has got this huge concave of army. And all of those units, I mean, some of them are derping, but a lot of those units are firing at the same time. Nice little bit of pickup control here by Solar, but this is starting to fizzle out right now for the Zerg player. Not really carving a whole lot of room. Okay, some corrosive balls do connect. Some of the Oracles wants more of energy. It's a lot of Ravagers now in the mix. 4th hatchery, by the way, was remade during all of this, so what was the original dispute even about? He's retaliating for something that's been long fixed. Okay. And what was previously like a 60 supply advantage for the Zerg is now like a 35. So this is still certainly something that Solar can win the game with, but I'm a little afraid he's going to overextend. This position here is absolutely massive for Zaun. The fact that he can keep this choke, like right over here, it's making this fight so much better. If all those Zerg units were firing at the same time, I don't think it would look like this. Now the Immortal count is growing. We've seen, though, what happens when Zaun is left by himself over the next couple minutes. So Solar is feeling like he needs to be the aggressor right now, and that he can have, well, a potential victory on his hands right here, because sitting back, playing the macro game against Protoss, well, we've seen what happened. Not really what he wants to do, so he is really just all inning. Okay. I'm a little surprised that Zaun has not made a single High Templar. Like, there we go, finally. I think since the energy recharge ability, you can... Oh, he's just making an Archon, okay. He can use energy recharge on a High Templar too and get a Storm. Now, Storm is not that great of a weapon against Roach Ravager. These are relatively tanky units, but I mean, if you Storm over here, you're still going to force that Zerg army to disengage for a couple seconds. You buy yourself a bunch of time. High Templar, though, are very gas heavy. Zaun, though, sitting on a bit of a bank. I guess he's already busy microing all of these units, and he's believing that he just does not need it. And I've got the feeling that he's right. The Immortal count is looking strong. And suddenly, the Zerg army, it's starting to fizzle out. These units, by the way, are likely to get picked up as soon as they wake up out of stasis. Okay. Zaun is a merciful god. Not quite playing around it. This is the big thing, though, right? The fact that he has transferred probes from the main base, maybe even some from the natural. Now, he can already do that here. Down to the bottom of the map is going to be massive. I think he may have forgotten. Oh, wow. I think he may have forgotten that he even got the High Templar and the Storm research there, too. Because he decided to go into a fleet beacon there. Beautiful hold by Zaun. Honestly, very impressive set of games here by Zaun in general. Keep in mind that game number 1 was by far the, well, worst one for him, because ultimately that was a loss. But that was also very much so him setting the tone for the series, right? Because he decided to go for a Zealot all-in, and, well, you can only show your skill that much when you're going for a 10-gate Zealot all-in. And I think Zaun played incredibly well in this match. GG.